After 70 years of F1 racing, only one driver has reached 100 race wins, Lewis Hamilton. Schumacher, widely considered the greatest of all time as well, actually didn't reach this feat. He reached 91. And Verstappen, the four-time world champion, he's currently on 71. But in MotoGP, across the championship levels, there are 3 riders who have hit that mark as of this weekend. There's Agostini on 122, Rossi on 115, and now Marc Márquez, as of the race weekend at Balaton, is on 100. But given the start of the race, it could have been a completely different story. I'm Tim from Ride Along Trackside. We're going to look at the 3 biggest stories coming out of this weekend. Turn 1 at Balaton Park could be the biggest story in the title fight this year so far. We saw Pedro Acosta fighting with Marquez. So what does this tell us about 2027? And Marquez's 100th win. How does this compare to what Hamilton achieved in F1? So let's start with the mess. In the main Grand Prix, Jorge Martin takes out his teammate, the championship leader, while he's second in the title race. It means that both of them score no points and they're still top 1 and 2 in the title race. There ends up being 5 riders taken out in total, 3 of them being Aprilias, and the Aprilias are arguably the strongest bikes this year. Now, Martin's been caused as the fault of that accident. He's going to have a double long lap penalty in the next round. But Joan Mir said that this was a predictable accident given how slippery the new asphalt was at turn 1 in Hungary. What does it look like in the standings? Bezzecchi's still on 180. Jorge Martin's 20 points back now on 160. We've got Digia on 138. Pedro Acosta in 4th on 132. And at the end of this race, Marc Márquez bumps up to 108 points. He's in 5th position. And what this really feels like after this race is that there's a few more chapters to the story of 2026. Maybe it's not all Aprilia after all. So while Bezzecchi and Martin pulled themselves out of the gravel, there was a much more interesting story happening on the track at the front. Considering it's widely reported that Acosta will be joining Marquez at Ducati in 2027, it looks like we're getting a preview of what it's going to look like next year. Acosta was leading the race for some time before Marquez finally caught him, and they had a little battle before he took out the lead. And so now we're going to have another scenario, something that F1 drivers are very familiar with, is 2 of the top riders in the same team battling for wins and podiums. But it is Marquez, one of the most successful riders of all time, and he's still battling. Even after multiple surgeries, he's at the front. Picture Webber and Vettel at Red Bull, or Rosberg and Hamilton at Mercedes, Verstappen and Perez. Acosta does have everything that you would want in a successful MotoGP rider. He's aggressive, he's quick, he does great in pre-qualifying, he's bold, and he's mostly consistent. So it does feel like there's a championship in him. He just hasn't been able to win that first GP yet. But Marquez has 100 of these, and he knows what to do in the final few laps to close out the victory. So how are the wins counted? Marquez has 100 Grand Prix wins, but that does include wins in Moto2 and Moto3. That's the same for Valentino Rossi and Giacomo Agostini. Because they're all under the same banner, FIM World Championship, they include them all together. That is different to how F1 count their wins. The feeder systems are not all under the same banner. Hamilton has 105 wins in total in F1, plus another 5 in GP2. What's interesting is to think about what Schumacher has done. He reached 91 wins in F1, but he did also have 10 to 15 wins in F3, but that wasn't included in the same championship. And a similar thing with Verstappen. He's got the 71 F1 wins, but he's got another 12 or so in different leagues below. And one of the other interesting points I'll make is the feeder system in F1. There's not as many races, therefore not as many race wins available. So someone may only do 5 or have 5 wins in, say, F2. In Moto2 and Moto3, someone might be racing there for multiple years. And so there's the opportunity to make quite a few wins. I'll post in the description the breakdown for the 3 MotoGP riders as for how many were made in MotoGP and how many for the lower classes. But regardless, here's the point that makes such a big difference in MotoGP versus F1. It's the rider not the machinery. Arguably for F1, the faster your car is versus other cars will virtually guarantee you a win. When you put a great driver in the best car, you're going to see them win championships. In MotoGP, someone who may not have the most competitive package on the bike can still win, because the way that they ride, their aggressiveness, their consistency is what can make the difference. Currently, it's the Aprilia that has the strongest overall package. And we've seen that because we've seen multiple wins from both Aprilia riders and actually their satellite team as well over the last few rounds. So Marquez, he has a complete package in the Ducati, but it's really him that makes the difference. And that's why he won this race. We've seen this for other riders in the past. A great example is Rossi. And some of us may already know the controversy of what Honda thought they provided versus Rossi's actual talent. When he moved to Yamaha, he showed that even going onto a bike that was considered less competitive, he was able to continue winning because he was just such a good rider. So the argument will always be, what's the difference between MotoGP and F1? And it's very much the rider over the machine in MotoGP. And the fact that Marquez can come back from multiple surgeries to win both the sprint and the Grand Prix and also get the pole position is incredible. A nice cherry on the top, if you will, is that it was actually Ducati's 100th win as well in Grand Prix. So what next? Given the current standings in the World Championship and the fact that Marquez feels like he's back, we don't know what's going to happen coming on. The two leaders on their Aprilias are going into Brno and Czechia with the title fight on the line. And it does feel like it's open now, especially with Aprilia's definitely not wanting to hit each other anymore. And what can Acosta bring? We'll find out in a couple of weeks.